Yeah, like, they didn't tell us that a large part of the company wasn't even working on the game, right?
Yes, and that's a really interesting one actually. This was a weird development, and I think this would have upset me more, and I would have felt a little bit more betrayed if I hadn't kind of already had my Guild Wars 2 emotional bypass. Because I will say this, like quitting WoW Classic was one of the best things I could have done to keep enjoying the game. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, that's because you found out the game was trash." Like, no, no, I still play the game. I still really like WoW Classic.
Mhm.
What it did was it gave me some distance from the game, and it allowed me to essentially like unshackle my feelings from Guild Wars 2, like and just kind of detach from it a little bit.
Mhm.
And so when this came out, right, when the layoffs came out, it was kind of like, oh yeah, that really sucks, man. But and when the news about they kind of had the game on the back burner, they just didn't tell us. I was like, oh wow, that's that's very cheeky of ArenaNet, but hey, I mean it happens, right? But I think a lot of players really felt betrayed. I think a lot of veteran
Yeah.
players felt very betrayed
It
by
was a
that.
rough community moment.
Yeah, in particular, like a friend of mine, Deroya, Deroy Gaming.
Mhm.
A lot of people in the community will know who that is. He felt very, very betrayed, and that was actually, and not to put words in, I believe this is accurate in saying this. That was kind of like his moment where he was like, okay, wow, actually, I'm gonna take a step back. Like, he's one of the most hardcore players
Yeah.
in the game. I'd say he gets all the ridiculous achievements, right? He farms everything, right? He's always in, and he still does that. He still plays, but that is what that caused him to back off from the game, from the community, and become less invested overall. And I think that was a really, really bad thing. It was a cruel thing to do to their willing community. And to be honest, like the way they communicated that, the way they handled that, like it would be very hard, in my opinion. It would be very difficult to say that there wasn't a little bit of disregard for the veteran player base there, right? I believe in the benefit of the doubt, but it is a hard sell, right? That they weren't deliberately withholding that information, right? And kind of disrespecting the
Yeah.
veteran community by not communicating in that way, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, they knew what they were doing, right? Okay, and look, I get it. It's business, right? It makes sense if you think about it, right? They don't want to tell people that, oh yeah, by the way, that game you really like, we ain't feeling it so much, you guys. But hey, keep buying stuff in the gem store, right? Not a good plan to do that, right? Like that's not going to get past the marketing guys. Um, but on the other hand, it does come across as a little bit yikes, right? That was a bit, oh yeah, that's a little bit questionable from the PR side of things because it
Mhm.
failed, right? Like Arena essentially gambled on all of their new products, their new projects, their new game, their PS game, their console game, whatever it was, right? Like whatever. Okay, it obviously
Yeah, we don't
failed
know.
miserably for whatever reason, and we never will know exactly what went down. But yeah, they gambled and were like, okay, we're kind of being a little bit deceptive with the community, but it's okay because we're going to release these new products and they're going to be super happy, so they're not going to care about it.
I would like to talk to
Unfortunately,
someone who knows that story, even
yeah.
offline.
Oh, the leaks, dude. The leaks get the insider information.
Yeah.
But the trouble is that none of that happened, and essentially they didn't do anything, and then they had to kind of come clean, and they got caught,
Mhm.
and it didn't look good. And they endured, for all that I love Arena, I do. I really like the company. I know some of the employees there who work there. I've chatted with them as well, done raids with them, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
For all I love the company, they fucked up, right? They got caught and they got roasted for it, and I hate to say it, they deserved it. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
it came at a very unfortunate time because they were kind of getting roasted after they just have massive layoffs. So it was kind of like kicking a dead horse, kicking a company while it's down.
Yeah, the publisher
But
kicked him, and then the community
um,
jumped on top.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this is where it really gets difficult. Like, and this is to the advantage of ArenaNet. I think it's very difficult for a consumer, for a player, to really go hard on a company. But the truth of the matter is, they seller, you buyer, right? Okay. If they aren't doing something right, then it's
Mhm.
completely on the player to one, tell them they're doing wrong and not feel bad about it, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Like, for all it is, ArenaNet is not your friend. ArenaNet wants your money, right? Welcome to capitalism. That's how it works. I know there are good people there. And you know what? I bet they're all lovely. Okay. I'd love to sit down and have a cup of tea. But here's the thing, all the cup of tea in the universe ain't going to make the game better, right? Okay. That's on them at the end of the day. And it's a really difficult thing to separate the personal, right? The fact that these are real people, right? And balance that with the fact that this is a company and they need to produce a good product because that is
Mhm.
how reality works, right?
Mhm. Yeah, players,
um,
especially MMO players, they form relationships with the games they play,
mhm.
and the companies that develop them are the custodians of those relationships, and community really did get burned. I remember, um, that announcement that Mo made when he really stepped up, at least publicly in 2016. He made a big speech, not a speech, I guess a letter, talking about how there were 3 different content teams doing live releases, and they also had X number of developers working on expansion too. I remember getting so juiced reading about that. I was bummed that they came in and nerfed Heart of Thorns, right? They kind of went back on the direction of this is actually end game content. Um, it's supposed to be hard out here. And then Path of Fire came out, and then so when I played season 4, episode 6, which was the one where we fought and killed Kralkatorrik, right? And there's the big cutscene with Oreen at the end. The overwhelming feeling that I got was that Guild Wars 2 was supposed to end. The story was supposed to end there. That was supposed to be it for the Guild Wars 2 story.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that got
I think very
fucked
much.
up by whatever ArenaNet's plans were to move over to new titles getting chopped out from under him.
No, I
And
think that's absolutely
that
true.
was a shitty
Um,
realization for me.
this is what you wanted to talk about later, actually. But there were a few kind of not exactly leaks, I suppose, but a few comments from a certain writer, actually,
Mhm.
who an ex employee of ArenaNet that actually shed some light on this, and this person was very insightful actually on some of these
You're talking
issues.
about Jessica Price, right?
Yeah, talking about Jessica Price. Yeah,
And
like
she
she
talked
actually said
candidly
that
about the
they.
company. What did she say?
Well, she essentially said that they were told to write the ending to be it could be an ending, but it could also be open ended, right? Okay, like that was the kind of the brief they had. Like she tweeted
Mhm.
a little bit about this, and obviously probably shouldn't have been saying that, but she was a slightly disgruntled
That bridge was burned
ex-employee,
hard.
I suppose, right? So like, yeah, I don't think she really cared at that point, right? Like what exactly was
Yeah.
going on there. But yeah, like we actually got some really good insight into that. And yeah, it was certainly okay. Do we want to do an expansion or are we moving on? Right. And they wanted to leave it open, right? And then of course they ended up doing it, right? They are doing an expansion to the game. But I think, yeah, if things had gone well, that was it. That was the end of Guild Wars 2. And I still think Arena in a way does want to be free of Guild Wars 2. They have to do this now because otherwise NCSoft is going to get them and pull the plug. But yeah, that was originally going to be the end of Guild Wars for sure. At the end of Arena, it was like, okay, everyone's flying off into the sunset. This is game over, right?
Mhm.
And it was very obvious that was the case. I think.
If that's the case, then because the arc ended with Oreen, ascending into Elder Dragonhood, right? Replacing Kralkatorrik, right? And the Oreen story started in was it season 1 or season 2?
It's been a while.
Because there was the egg, right? And the master of
Mhm.
whatever with the Zephyrite. I didn't play season 1, and I came at the end of season 2, so that time's a little fuzzy to me. I guess I'm just asking myself, and maybe this is just poking at a wound. I don't know, but I can't stop thinking about it. Is how long ago did ArenaNet know they were planning to end the game? Like, what was? Um, I don't know. I'm a player who got burned, and I want to know why. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm a jilted ex girlfriend, and I want to know what the fuck happened, and I'm never gonna get an explanation.
I think they probably knew for a long time. I think companies have very, very big internal timelines, right?
Hmm.
They know a lot more than us a lot earlier. But the thing is, I don't criticize them for this. Like, I criticize them for failing. If that makes any
What's the
sense.
communication that sucked? I
Well,
think you can get
I,
away with
I
almost anything if you communicate about it, right? Don't you think?
I don't know. Like the thing is, I don't think that they can't just say, oh yeah, by the way, we're working on Guild Wars 3, guys, right? Because obviously that sets an expectation in the community, right? And they obviously thought they could pull it off. The problem was that they failed because I actually agree with ArenaNet. ArenaNet, in my opinion, are right to get away from Guild Wars 2. For whatever reason, and I'm sure there are a myriad reasons why this is the
Mhm.
case, but Guild Wars 2 is an absolute nightmare for them to develop,
It's a
right? It
dead
takes them a
formula.
long time
Yeah.
to add content. There are bugs, right, that are just misery to work out, right? There are design issues with the game, right? Like, it has aging systems. You've got the lag in the open world now, right? There's a whole,
I
it
noticed that.
takes them ages to work on skins. I think at one point they said something like it takes like 9 months to make an armor set or something like that, and that's why they do outfits now or some crazy ridiculous stuff like that. It takes them
Mhm.
ages to do stuff. Yeah, ArenaNet wants to get away from this. They want to be free of Guild Wars 2, and I think they were right to do that. I think they were probably trying to do some kind of Guild Wars 3 or some kind of other MMO product that was going to replace Guild Wars 2.
Mhm.
But obviously that didn't work out. But their intention, their idea was definitely correct. Guild Wars 2 is an excellent game, but it's built on the engine of Guild Wars 1. It's obviously spaghetti, right? People, barely understand how the game works at this point because most of the original developers aren't there anymore. And this isn't, I'm just going to be clear, like this is not their fault. I'm a developer as well, and look, when I look back at something that I made, like 2 years ago, I'm like, how the hell does this work? Like, what is that? Like, what is going on there? You know?
What do you do,
And when
Teapot?
you're on, I'm a developer. Bit
What
of
kind
bit
of
of C
what do you
sharp,
work on?
bit of PHP, bit of C sharp PHP
Web
developing, bit of
developer?
action. Yeah, back end web developer, a long
Cool.
time. But anyway, it's yeah, like obviously that's going to happen with any kind of long term project. It's going to become a nightmare to manage it and to continue developing it, right?
Mhm.
As time goes on. And taking that, taking that away and starting fresh, yeah, probably would be a good thing for the game, right? And they'd be able to do a lot more with a brand new engine, brand new team of people who actually know what all the code does, right? Wow, amazing, incredible, would be great. But yeah, obviously that didn't.
Yeah.
You hate to see it.
Hmm. I'd be